everyone. Welcome back to another podcast with Mr. Hagan. And on this podcast, we're going to talk about an example of a price floor, maybe the most well-known example of price floor, and that is minimum wage. To think about minimum wage, the first thing we have to do is think a little bit differently about this graph, and that is instead of like thinking about normal consumer goods, we need to think about our good here being labor. So the good here is going to be labor or workers, and this is going to be the price of labor, which we also call a wage. Okay, that's your wage. That's the price of labor, and then this equilibrium price is the equilibrium wage. Okay, and then here's the equilibrium quantity, which is where the quantity demanded equals the quantity supplied. That means it's the number of workers hired is equal to the number of workers who are looking for work. The demand curve now, this is now the firm. This is now the company that wants to hire workers. And the supply curve is now the workers. They are now the suppliers who are providing labor services in the market. And maybe the wage, it used to be at P1, maybe that used to be the wage right here. This used to be the wage, and government officials thought that wage was too low. So they set a price floor right here. They set a price floor. And the price floor is what we popularly call the minimum wage. And it says you cannot pay below this wage. You cannot pay below this wage. And so what's going to happen as a result? What are some of the results of this? Well, of course, one result is there's going to be a surplus. There's going to be a surplus of workers. That is to say, there's some people that were not looking for jobs previously at a wage here at P1, but now at PF, you're like, oh man, there's a lot more money. Now you got more people that are going to be out looking for work, more people that are going to apply for these jobs. So the quantity of workers supplied is going to go up. But employers are going to say, well, maybe we don't need to hire as many workers. And so the quantity demanded is going to decline. Maybe we'll replace the workers with machines. Maybe if it's cashiers, we were going to hire people, but now we're going to get like these automatic cashiers, the automated cashiers that just check you out automatically, or bank tellers maybe get replaced by ATM machines, whatever the case might be. So the quantity of workers demanded is going to go down. Okay, and this creates a surplus of workers. This creates a surplus of workers. So let's look at a little bit of history here. The history of the minimum wage is it starts in 1938, part of what was called the Fair Laborers Standard Act, and the minimum wage at the time started at 25 cents per hour. Of course, that minimum wage has gone up over time with as a result of inflation. I can remember at one point I was making, I think, $3.15 back in the maybe the late 80s or something like that. The minimum wage was $3.15. Per hour. Now, at the time that I'm making this video, I think the minimum wage is probably around in the low sevens, 7.25 or something along those lines. Either way, you set that minimum wage above the equilibrium wage, and it's going to have what results? First of all, it's going to create a surplus, and now a surplus in the labor market is now kind of more important in a way, or at least some people might think it's more important, because this is what we call unemployment. So these people right here, from these workers from QD to QS, they're now unemployed. They're looking for work and they can't find it. What else is going to happen as a result? So there's going to create some unemployment. And by the way, there's some research that challenges this. This is the typical explanations, kind of the textbook explanation. And there are some economists who are doing some research that challenges this, and you can go look that up on your own. But there is some research to challenge this normal way of thinking about it. But we're going to kind of stick right now to the normal textbook explanation, and you can go off and get into that debate if you want to do some research. Typical result number 2 is discrimination. Typically, the discrimination is thought to be against unskilled teenagers or minorities. So that's to say, and of course this stuff is illegal, but people might find ways of doing it, quietly, whatever, and violate the law and engage in discrimination. Of course, that's terrible, and but there's people that attempt to do this. So now, the price floor is up here. This is the minimum wage, and you got so many workers coming that are applying for the job that you kind of now have your pick of who you want to hire, and there might be some people who will say, well, then I'm not going to hire teenagers because they can be difficult to deal with, or they might not hire minorities that they whatever are bigoted against or something along those lines. And or maybe they will hire based on how attractive they think a person is instead of just looking at how good of a job they would do. And that's not to say these things might not happen to some extent anyway under normal conditions, but we expect to see it even more when you have a surplus of workers. So discrimination is definitely something that we worry about when we see these minimum wage laws. We also would expect to see things like various forms of non-price rationing. That is to say, let's put some numbers on it now. Let's say maybe the equilibrium wage is $4 per hour, but now the law says we have to pay $7.25 per hour. So what might bosses do? They might say, well, we're going to get rid of our training opportunities. We used to pay for you to, take a class. We used to pay you $4 an hour, and we would pay for you to take a class at the local community college. Now we pay you $7.25 an hour. We're not going to pay for you to take classes anymore. We're going to cut that. That's how we're going to pay for that higher wage. Or maybe we may offer fewer benefits. We used to pay $4 an hour and you had a dental plan. Now we pay $7.25 and the dental plan is gone. Or maybe the working conditions might not be as nice, right? So maybe we used to pay $4 an hour, and we used to have like nice furniture, nice couches. We kept the office at maybe 70 degrees or something like that. And now we're going to pay $7.25, so we're not going to go buy nice, comfortable couches and things like that, or maybe we won't have a refrigerator in the workroom, or the temperature in the workplace will be turned down to 68, 67, 65. And again, there's laws against going too far on some of this stuff, but there may be some changes in working conditions that happen as a result. And then finally, you might just get black markets, again, where people are just going to, pay somebody under the table. They're just going to start paying people under the table and be outside of the legal market. So again, we're not saying that minimum wages are good. We're not saying minimum wages are bad. We're just saying that these are some of the things that we expect to see if the government's going to institute a minimum wage, which is just an example of a price floor. Then we expect to see some of these behaviors that are going to happen. Okay, there's been another podcast with Mr. Hagan. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you on the next podcast.